We're back, guys. Pajamas podcast, man. It has been a big minute since you all have heard from me, at least in terms of this specific aspect of my creative products. Not that this is a product, it's free, but I haven't been podcasting long enough for people to probably not even know I had one. And I don't want that to be the case anymore. I actually consume podcasts as one of my sort of major forms of content. Like, that's one of the biggest things that I like to do is listen to podcasts and watch podcasts. And I couldn't tell you why, but for some reason, I just I got to a point where I was so overstimulated with some of my occupational stuff, and I just started making excuses, to be blunt. Maybe they were reasons, but to a larger degree, there's a part of me that just feels like they were becoming excuses. And instead of throwing them all at you, instead of trying to explain away the reason you haven't heard me on the podcast, I'm just going to bring it back. I'm going to bring back the Pajamas podcast. So I am Cole Tyndall. I am your host. And this one's going to be a solo episode. There have been probably, I want to say like 15 episodes that I did. Not enough to make this like an upstanding popular show, but enough for, I think, some people to know what this is. But generally the ethos behind this is that we get together, we talk about ourselves, we talk about our lives, and we do it in a comfortable way, just like we are in our pajamas. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah, I had a really productive day today. I was recording some content. Oh, you have to forgive me. I have to make sure this is still recording. Sorry. Today, I was recording some content with my buddy Jorge. You may know him as JJL. And he and I have a song coming out next month. Well, this month, at the end of the month. Right now, it is the 7th. It's coming out on the 22nd. It's called Tightrope. I'm really excited about that. It's got this sort of metaphor going on in it between like the idea of two people, like, you know, if you're on a tightrope and like even if like you were standing across from someone on one, if that other person falls, it'll make you fall, and like kind of vice versa. But then there's also an aspect of like, you know, if you're about to fall and someone's going to like catch you. So there's almost two ways to look at that. And then the song is about basically that idea, but if somebody was like slipping into problems with like addiction or bad habits and how that would affect a relationship. It's not something that's 100% like currently a factor in my life, which I think sometimes you can get away with more like poppy music. Sometimes you just write stuff for the songwriting, or just because the melody works and you found some lyrics that are interesting. But I feel like with the last song we did being, well, this is the last song that we, sorry, that's my fridge. With the last song that me and Jorge did, that was kind of in that vein, Green Miles, it had a really good product, like a really good result. And we put the song out and it was humongous in like India was the biggest market by far. It got like, I want to say right now it's at like 160,000 streams on Spotify, which for me, that's a lot. And I feel like for a lot of artists in like sort of my, I would say close range of artists, I would say anywhere from like 0 to 100,000 monthly listeners, at least on Spotify. That's a pretty good result. At least within the amount of time that we got kind of over that, at least what I would consider the most significant, like 100,000 stream mark. And it's consistently performing super well too, which is so amazing to see, just because I didn't think it would get as many streams, to be honest. I didn't think it was going to get that many, especially not that fast, but we ended up running an ad for Instagram, Facebook, and I think just those. And I ran it in like stories, Instagram Explorer, and I don't think the feed, I don't really like feed ads for myself. So I don't really feel like most people do. But stories for some reason have like a really successful conversion, and they worked really well. And I only paid like $500, and the ad just went bonkers, which was amazing to see. And, life lately for me has just kind of been about doing things like that, finding things to look forward to, finding things to appreciate. Like my girlfriend moved in, Savannah, and I'm pretty sure one of the last episodes I did with my buddy Nick, I mentioned that I had a new girlfriend. She's awesome. She's so cute. She's just lovely, and I just love being with her. And she is my equal in so many ways, when I'm upset, she's usually either able to kind of clock that and give me some space, or she will comfort me. She'll come talk to me. She'll make sure that I'm heard, and that is just so great. And I feel like she knows, especially like, and when it comes to like running a home, she fills in all the stuff that I wasn't amazing at. Like, she had some ideas about how my living room is organized, and like we have the stuffed animal pile in the back now. Is that not the greatest thing ever? I was hoping that when I ducked my head, you'd see them. So hopefully that worked. But all of that has kind of been things that I've tried to do to sort of distract me from some of the past traumas that I've been having a difficult time with. March is the current month. May of last year, my dad died. My father passed away, and there's details about it that I won't get into just to protect some family, but I had been listening to an album by the band Brockhampton the day I found out, and the whole day I was listening to the album Roadrunner, New Light, New Machine, where a lot of the focus of the album and like the energy behind it is based around the member of the band Joba's dad dying. And I remember I went to this coffee shop here in the kind of St. Paul area. I went to this cool like boutique place, and I got like some groceries, and I cooked up a bunch of like steak and chicken on the grill, and I was having a pretty great day. And keep in mind, the thing about listening to that album where the guy's father dies, I was listening to that album like the whole day. And then this lake near me, there is this big like 1.5 mile walk, and I love doing that in the warm weather and just walking around and enjoying it. And this cat in the area will always come up and kind of like say hi, and I don't usually like mess with cats a ton, but this specific one, I don't know what the situation is, but it's just, I feel like I have this connection to it where I just like want to go and say hello. So I will do that. And the cat will always run up to me and want to like be pet. And I saw it with Nick one time when we walked around the lake. And then I saw it with my girlfriend Savannah, and she freaked out. She loves cats. And she was like, I can't believe it's real. I got to meet the cat. And it made her whole night. But this night, I went to a spot that the cat normally is, and it was just sitting there. And I took a picture of it. Maybe I'll put that on screen here. I took a picture of it, and the cat was just sitting on the edge of the stoop, and it wasn't moving, and it didn't want to like look at me, and it didn't seem like it wanted to be pet. And I don't know what that meant. I always wondered, like, was that like an omen? Was it like the cat was like trying to connect with me? Was it something? Was it anything? Did it mean something, or was I just overthinking? And I never really thought. I never really figured out what that meant. And then I went home. That had probably been at like 10:30. I went home that night, and I remember that day I tried to call my dad around like 7, and I didn't get in touch with him. I couldn't get in touch with him. And then the next day he was dead. And threw my whole life into a big mess. And I don't necessarily think that this kind of information is. I don't really know what the goal of sharing this with you guys is. I think I'm really transparent as a person with friends and colleagues, and especially with creative people. I'm incredibly not direct, but like you're not gonna not know what I think if I am in like a forum where I'm supposed to tell you that. And I just feel like I need to kind of have the same candor with you guys. So that's what I want. If we're gonna be asking you to, consume more content, if we're gonna be asking you to participate with us, to follow along with us as, consumers, as a consumer of many things, I think that I need to kind of respect that and be like, yo, here's who I really am. Because some of my favorite artists are people that I feel like I have that kind of connection with. And it's funny, it's like you almost form these like parasocial connections with people like Theo Von. He's my favorite podcaster. He's so great. I love watching him talk to people. But someone like him, it's like you know who he is. He is so well, and that's why it always works when you see him interview, because you can see like, well, if I know how Theo is based on what he gives us, if I know who he is by himself, and I know this guest he has on, or maybe I don't, but maybe even if I do, I get to watch this person who I know how they talk and how they operate, and I get to watch them talk to this person that I already sort of know. It's like introducing two of your friends and it goes good, And I don't know. It was just really. Sorry, my stuff is freaking out. I don't want that. Anyways. So I just feel like I need to do a better job working toward that with my audience. So I'm gonna work on that. But yeah, that happening to me with my father passing away was so hard. Having to clean up his home. I was his next of kin, so everything kind of fell on me. And there were people who, made donations, and there was like a pastor where he lived who helped make a church available and kind of let me. I told him, I was like, look, I have a very like specific idea of what I want his funeral to be. Cause I remember talking to my mom about it, and I was saying like, if we did one of those like weepy, like sad music, like casket situations, he would have come in and just been like, heck is all this shit? He would have hated it. He would have hated it. And I was really insistent on not doing that. And so I just told everybody, you know what? Just wear what you would wear to hang out with my dad. Whatever that is, just wear that. I put up a slideshow. I had people send in pictures. I played a bunch of music he liked. I think I ended up scrapping that idea because I don't remember why, but it was just easier to have them put on whatever they were going to put on in the background. And then I just did a open mic. I was like, just come up, share a story about my dad. And he worked in rehabilitation. And so there were people that had been through a program and had stories about how he helped them detox. And there were people that talked about how he was there for them when no one else was. And I was like, look, my dad gave, I remember I said, when I was on the mic, I remember saying, like, look, my dad gave the best hugs of anybody. Like, he had a way of holding you in a way that just felt like there was nobody else in the world. Like, he hugged you like that. And I remember I feel like that's one of the things I picked up from him. And I really mean it when I hug somebody. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that was his thing. And I gave everybody a forum to kind of come up and talk about him. And that seems to be really effective. And in the following weeks, and like even the preceding weeks, like I ended up taking like 3 weeks off of my main job. And I just kind of feel like I left my body, and the thing that filled it was this sort of decision making, productive, let's get it done, let's be there for the family, let's take care of things. And immediately Savannah dropped a bunch of stuff, and she came and she joined me, and she helped me, and she watched over me. And like, this is before she had even moved in, so like she came and stayed here with me for a while. And she was everything in that moment. She did everything that I needed to be there with me. That was one of the key things in my relationship with her, where I was like, oh, we're in the right spot right now. Because I think when it's like as little as like if your partner's sick, like you got to go get him soup. You know, when she says, hey, I'm in bed and my tummy hurts, will you please pick up some frozen fruit? Like, that's not really a question. Like, if you really love somebody, that's a command. Even if they don't phrase it like that. If for you, it's a command. They don't mean that. It's a command. But for you, like, that's a must. That's a must do. And I just, in that moment, I was just shocked. I was like, wow, somebody cares enough about me to come here and do this thing for me. And the irony is, the reason that I am always so surprised when people want me, or like kind of feel like maybe they might not, or whatever. I don't know what to call it. But I feel like so often the way I react to affection is like surprise or like gratitude. And I think a lot of that is just from me not growing up with a dad, you know? So it's just all incredibly confusing that that's my reality. But that was one of the major things I dealt with recently. And then in the past almost year, I guess, at this point, it's going to be 2 more months. It'll be a year. For the next part of, I guess, this past year, I have spent a lot of time just trying to put stuff on my calendar, like things to look forward to, things to appreciate, you know? Not necessarily distractions, maybe distractions, just things to appreciate, because when you're in that kind of trauma, and especially when you have that level of pain, you have to give yourself reasons to look at life as a good thing. And that was very hard. I didn't feel like I was going to get back to a point where I'd be able to be honest. And so I saw my friends, and I took my girlfriend on dates, and I listened to music, and I tried to be in the sun. And it's weird, you know, it didn't happen right away, but it was just the other day I was like, I think I feel better. Huh. And I had somebody close to me be like, yo, you've really been like slipping up in like a lot of your responsibilities lately. And I was like, they're like, what do you think the reason for that is? I was just like, my dad died, dude. Like, do I not get any kind of like what? Don't you remember that? And it's kind of a tough balance between trying to get better and trying to focus on my own mental health, and then also like get to a point where I don't let this like sort of depressive cloud be like my every waking moment. And also, though it is a tough thing and I'm going to have times where I need to sort of back up and address it, it's also not you can't like use that as an excuse to have shortcomings as a person in like places that you need to not be coming up short. Does that make sense? Like, there comes a point where like you can't be like, I think Theo Von said this once, but he was like, "Hey, buddy, I used to be in a wheelchair." Like, someone said that to him, and he's like, "Hey, cool it, buddy. I used to be in a wheelchair." Like, that was supposed to like garner empathy. So I share all this with you guys because maybe I didn't do the podcast and my dad died. Maybe those are independent statements, or maybe they're together, or maybe a lot of things. And maybe I would have found an excuse either way. Maybe I'm afraid of my potential. Maybe I'm scared that I'll commit to this and then people aren't going to like it. But I'm sick of doing that. So we're not going to do that anymore. I decided. Because I want this to be something. I want to be able to sit down and talk to my people more, and I want them to be able to rely on me. So if you're somebody who knows my name and you know any of the content I've made, big or small, I just want to be able to have a better connection with you. So if you could please allow me to apologize and maybe not apologize. If you just hear what I said and accept it, I'd appreciate that, because hardest moment of my whole life, and that's not an exaggeration. It's the hardest single moment of my whole life. Then let's move forward, and let's be better. So, what can we talk about that's more positive? God, I feel like no matter where I am in my life, I could always do a 10-minute bit on traffic. I hate traffic. It sucks. People can't drive. Use your turn signal, you know? Call me crazy to suggest something like that. Why don't you signal where you're going before you turn? That's hacky, though, to talk about driving. F it. Or like when people do that thing where they're behind you and they want you to speed up, and then they go like this on your freaking ass. Sorry, your tail, your boot, your trunk. When they start doing this because they want you to go faster, it's like, buddy, I did that. Someone did that to me on like an interstate the other day, and I was like, screw it. And I did the same thing, and they were like, and they like whipped around me. It was so funny, but I was just like, dude, like, I'm going like 8 miles over the speed limit. Like, don't you think you're being a little bit ridiculous? Maybe it's not that serious, you know? I've been editing. I did a couple pieces of work for the Faz Break team. They are a media page, and they do mostly an emphasis on like Christian hip hop, which is cool. And I have done a couple edits. So I put up a reel with them recently on Instagram, and then another one a few weeks prior. But they're dope. They got these cool stickers. Ugh. It's a little too hard to reach. Freaking sweet stickers. And let's see. I went on a trip with them. I took some really cool photos. Here's me and Cooper Hill, one of my favorite songwriters. Such a cool dude. In my trademark green shirt. What do you think about that? And then, anyways, I don't know. I went on a trip with them to Nashville too, and that's been a fun thing. I'm not like necessarily a part of the page, but I feel like it's a cool association to have. You know, I like them. I feel like I provide some edits when they need them, and they seem to be pretty happy with them. So this, honestly, some of the positive feedback I've gotten from helping them has kind of gotten me a little more into like, oh, I am good at visual content. Oh, I should get back into making cooler Instagram posts. Oh, I should do a podcast and I should film it and should stop worrying about if somebody doesn't like it or not, you know? So that's been a big boost in my self-esteem. And I've been making music again. Not a lot, you know, but some. It's been hard. The whole thing that actually triggered this podcast today, as I saw a video by, was it Adam Savage, the guy from Mythbusters? That guy. He made a video talking about being creative when you're grieving and how hard it is and how it affects you. And the frustrating thing about it is like there's no timeline on grief. I remember when I got out of my only other relationship, I had been dating the girl that I was with for like 4 years. I don't think it was quite 4 years, but it was approaching 4 years. And I remember it took me like almost half of that time to even start to really feel like things are going to turn around. And I found some success with girls here and there, like dating and stuff, and a couple of girls that I like just like hung out with, or like actually had like a like a date with, you know, or I would just chat with online. And then who would have known that after all that, the girl that I ended up meeting, the girl who shared my same like beliefs and faith and stuff, would have been a Christian, you know what I'm saying? Because I met her on Tinder, and it was just so funny because that is not the place you normally find that. And it just, from the minute we met, we clicked, and we started to like kind of see the ways that we're similar in like childhood stuff, which I won't get into too much out of respect for her, but you know, similar programming in certain ways, similar kind of almost nostalgias for like childhood. I think almost as like a way to kind of reject some of the traumas of being an adult. And then she ended up being she's the greatest. But on grief, right? I remember that period. I couldn't make a song that wasn't about our relationship. I'd make songs that are like, I loved you so much. I never put that one out. But then I put out the song On My Own, which is kind of a scathing track. It's not, I don't mean it to be disrespectful. I didn't then either, but it was just how I felt. I was like, all right, now I'm gonna really put this thing to bed. And even that, like, didn't do it. It took like, I think 2 years and therapy, and all of this was during COVID. So I was already by myself all the time. And I remember that was the only other time that I was that miserable until this thing with my dad. And I think that grief is just such a funny thing. It's not a good thing, but it is a necessary thing. It's not good in the moment, but I look forward to the person that I become over the next couple months, who is making steps to further his creative successes and efforts, and how much happier he is than the person I am now. And I look at the person I am now compared to the person I was a couple months ago, and before that, and before that, and before that, all the way back to May of last year, and I see him being happier and better at being alive and enjoying it. And we're going to start here. And this podcast was mostly about me and this one little thing. But the whole point was to try and put a stop to the absence of at least this one category of Cole being creative and Cole being honest. And I was just tired of looking at, like, you haven't posted on Instagram, you haven't dropped any music, and you're starting to lose sight of what you are capable of. And I am refusing to be that person anymore. So today is March 7th, and this will be the day that I end the drought on this podcast. And I look forward to the next episode, hopefully having maybe a little bit of a lighter tone. But what I can guarantee you is no matter what I'm feeling in a certain day, or what's happening, or what has happened, I'm going to give you this transparency and not hide that. Let me think if there's any other thoughts I have before we sign off. I think that's it. I think that's all I have for today. I look forward to continuing to grow this relationship with you guys. And for anybody who had already been subscribed to this podcast that saw this episode come out, I want to say thank you for keeping me in your subs list. And if you listen to this, an even further thank you. And for anybody who is just finding me, I want you to know how much I appreciate it. And hopefully we can continue to get to know each other. And yeah, let's be comfortable being who we are and being straightforward with each other. And throw on some pajamas every once in a while, maybe. How about that? All right. I'm Cole Tyndall, man. Thank you. All y'all be well. And I will catch you in the next one. See ya. Hold on for you, hit me with the eye roll. I'ma grab your hand before we end up in a spiral. Playing slow songs, think I'd rather hit the high notes. Leave it up to me to try to catch you when you're flying low. Too faded when we FaceTime last night.